Hey, this is JC and welcome to Small Brick City. This is part 2 of building a MOC from start to finish. In the first video, I showed how I built this MOC from scratch, starting with an empty base plate all the way to the roof and the details. If you haven't watched that first video, I do suggest you check it out before watching this one, as you get a better sense of my build approach, design strategies, and build techniques to create this MOC. In this second part, I'm going to concentrate on detailing the build to complete it. We're going to explore how to detail the inside of the building as well as the outside to make it a very complete custom MOC. A shout out to Benita Dufresne, Chevy Man 3030 and Mama's Bricks for all the suggestions you gave. I can say we're basically on the same wavelength in terms of what we think should fit into this little building, but what we have to figure out is the spacing and placement of these builds to really detail the interior. This video will probably run a bit long, just like the first one, due to the format of the video, since I'm doing the actual build in real time. Do let me know in the comments if you like this format of the video. I personally think it can be quite useful, as you can see me making decisions, making changes, and approaching the build as if I were to do it without filming it. I'm not saying that every video will be this format, but let me know if you'd like to see long-form videos like this of continuous builds in the future. With that, let's get started with completing this build. One thing I did mention in the previous video was that I wanted to rectify this issue. This plate, the 1x3 plate, actually belongs to the underside of the plate of the second floor. But just due to the way this is laid out, there's a 1x3 plate here, and it also connects to the jumper plate, which allows the second floor to fit and stick to the first floor, as with many modular style buildings. The issue is, at times, as you saw just now, this 1x3 plate remains stuck to the jumper plate. It's not a huge issue, but it's not great. So I want to avoid that, so I'm going to change the design a bit. And that basically means having this 1x4 jumper plate with 2 studs bite into this part of the second floor and not on the 1x3 plate. So that's a very simple fix. All I need to do is to remove the 1x4 plate and change the position. But I'll also need to change the tiles then. So these tiles will go here. These are 1x4 tiles, and this 1x4 jumper plate will now go here. Now, I generally do have a rule that I want jumper plates to be diagonally opposite each other. Sometimes it's not always possible, but you definitely want to be at least opposite each other. So this stretches my rule a bit, but it will work. And this is also quite a small unit, so it doesn't really make a difference in this case. So that fits back very well, and if I were to remove it, nothing comes out because I've changed the position of the jumper plate. So that's done. I'm going to now detail the top floor first. So I'm going to remove that, put the bottom aside, and let's figure out how we're going to detail the inside of this floor. Thanks to all the viewers and subscribers who gave suggestions on what to place on this second floor. I think we're all in agreement there should be a bed. After all, this is the bedroom, and there needs to be a toilet. So that's asking a lot for a small space like this. So besides just fitting the builds in for a bed and a toilet, we need to figure out the exact position, one that's best suited for the build. You don't just want to fit something in, you also want there to be some design and flow for the building or for the floor. You know, in Chinese we call this feng shui, and that is basically you want a flow, a nice flow through the building or through the floor, so that it feels spacious even though there may be furniture and big builds relative to the building inside. So here's a useful thing I do when trying to figure out the positions of different builds within a floor or building. I have all these small pre-builds that I have on hand, and these are things that I've built before, small builds that I think I would want to put in a building. Maybe instead of a bedroom we can have an arcade and we can put in a pinball machine, but not in this case. An ATM probably doesn't make sense, not a bench or sofa, but what we want is a bed and a toilet. Now, I'm not going to use this bed for this build, I don't think it fits, but this is just my reference piece. I will be using this toilet. I've taught how to build this toilet as well as another toilet in a previous video tutorial. You can check out the link in the card or in the description below. So now we have to figure out where's the best place to put these two builds, since that's the key build. There's also one smaller thing I want to put in. I want to put in some kind of safety railing, and that's so that a minifig will not fall to his death since there's no barricade. So I'm going to use this barrier here. And I will tell you now, this should be placed here. And the reason is because of the position of my ladder for the second floor, or the floor below. See, the minifig will climb up and jump to the side. It's hard for him to jump backwards. So this will be the position for this railing. So we've got another restraint. So we have to figure out, let's start with the big item first. So the two obvious places to put the bed is either on this side of the room or this side of the room. If we place it somewhere here, that could make sense. You come up, you could have a dresser here, a TV here. That's the bed, makes sense. And this whole place could be the toilet. But that seems to be quite a big space for the toilet. So if I were to shift this here, instead, I could do it that way, or I could do it this way. I would prefer this way. And it goes back to the whole feng shui and flow. See, you want to have a nice smooth flow all the way from wall to wall as far as possible. It makes the room look bigger, because if you place the bed here, it cuts off the room and immediately feels smaller. But by rotating the bed 90 degrees, notice the flow, it stretches from wall to wall and it seems much more spacious. If I do put my bed here, the toilet will go somewhere here. I won't put it right here. I think it's not nice to just climb up and see a toilet bowl, so this might make sense. But what we need is some kind of barrier or wall. And to do that, I can use a panel piece like this to be a wall, and that's just to block it from view from the bed, which is good. And there's enough space for me to put a shower, but I do need to keep the water from spraying out. So I'm going to use this 1x2 column piece, trans blue piece. So that allows the water to be, define the shower area. The problem is there's not enough space for the minifig now. So a 4-stud wide piece is too big. I'll need to use something that's 3 studs wide. So something like that. And we just put that in temporarily. That works well. There's enough space for the minifig. It still serves the purpose of blocking the toilet. We have an area for the shower, and we've got nice flow. It maintains the size or the spaciousness of this small room. I'm going to go with this because to me this works the best. I'm maximizing the space in the room, and there's privacy between the toilet and the bed. I will put a TV here, which means that I'm going to need a modified brick like this, a 1x2 brick. I'll build it within the wall so that I can mount a flat screen TV, which will be in the form of a 2x4 tile piece like that. And one thing I'm going to do is I want to build this new wall into the existing wall. So I don't just run it loose and tile over. It's not going to be secure enough. So what that means is I have to rebuild this section of the room or the building so that this will be locked in place. And the other thing I have to do is I have to put in more of these bricks so that we can put in a shower head as well as a tap. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is to open up this section of the build so that I can build in the wall. So this involves me breaking up parts, and I'm going to add to it to build that 3-stud wide wall. So what I've done so far is to build up this wall so that it's locked in place, and I'm trying to figure out the height of this TV. Now I could put it lower, but the reason why I don't want to put it lower is because I want to put some kind of a dresser or some kind of storage area here. Maybe a lamp as well. So if this is too low, it's going to be in the way. So for now, I'm going to keep it at this height. I've also been thinking about the shower. I need to build a shower head inside, and I think basically this might be too low. I'm going to raise everything up by one plate, and then I can add in a shower head, which I'm going to create out of this modified plate with a clip. And this modified plate with a closed bar element will be built into that layer of 1 by something long plates. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove all these tiles and layer the entire top with white plates. Once again, just like I showed in the first video, when I'm laying a layer of plates, I always identify the join areas first, and I want to lock those down, and then I'll tile the rest of the area. So I'm always looking for the place which has the most joins first. In this case, these two places over here. So I'm going to use these 1 by 3 tiles, corner tile elements, and I'll place one here and one there. So that locks this down very well. So there's a 1 by 2 plate that I need here, and now I can tile up the rest of the area. So I'm coming to this area where I want to put the shower plate or shower head. So that is going to go somewhere here, I would say, maybe closer to the wall, this side over here. So that's where my shower head is going to be. That then allows me to determine how I'm going to plate this, and that's exactly how that goes. So everything is layered. Once I have the tile in place, this can be down and everything would fit. The roof can fit back onto this floor without hitting this shower head. Now remember, I said I needed some taps to be put there, so I do have to now rebuild. Once again, I have to break that down, and I'm going to put in this modified brick so that I can put in this tap element here, just like that. So let's do that. So this is what I've got so far. I don't really like this because this should be centered. It shouldn't be to the other side, which means I can't use a 1 by 2 plate or 1 by 2 brick. I now have to use a 1 by 1 modified brick instead so that I can center it. As you can see, there's a lot of building, trial and error and rebuilding, but it's all part of the process. So as I'm building this, I realized that this is actually better. I originally was going to have this as the shower head, but actually if I turn it around this way with a single clip, this allows everything to be centered. It's much more aesthetically pleasing, as you can see. So I'm going to work with that. And there I have it. I've built the shower integrated with the wall. I've got the toilet or the WC, the toilet bowl itself, in place. So before I get to the rest of the room, what I think I want to do is to finish this up by putting in the tiling. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to come up with a white and grey color scheme for the flooring. I do want to add in that toilet paper holder. So I'm going to have a toilet paper holder which is made from a tap element and a white round brick, and I'll use also a white brick as a holder. So it's going to be very straightforward. This is going to be placed somewhere at the back, right there on that last stud, which means I need to tile up the rest of the area. For the shower area itself, I'm going to use 1 by 2 white grill pieces so that acts as the drainage so that the water goes down. And then I'm going to use a 1 by 3 tile here to define the toilet and the bedroom area. Let's do that now. So we've got it nicely tiled. I'm going to put back everything inside. First I'll put this toilet roll holder, which goes all the way in the corner. And for the toilet itself, I need to add an additional plate underneath, and the reason for that is to counter the thickness of the tiles which we've just added. That goes in all the way to the end here. I can put back the tap in the middle. For the shower head, I need to finish this with maybe this kind of a blue, trans blue plate, just to make it look like a shower head, and we'll cap it off with a grill piece. That fits here, and we'll finish it off with that 1x2 trans blue column. Now I need an additional 1x2 plate here, and then what I'm going to do is to tile the entire top once again. So there we have, now we have tiled everything with the jumper plates in place. Remember my little formula, which is having the jumper plates diagonally opposite each other. And the toilet is more or less done. That's pretty classy. So now that I've got the bed, well, I'm not using this bed, so we have to build a bed now. And I also want to build a dresser, and I think I'll put a lamp on top, place it here, and then we have to tile everything. So let's prioritize this first. Let's build the bed first. So we'll move all the stuff out of the way, and I've got parts for a bed. Now anytime I do a MOC, I think about concept and details. So for the concept, this is a small modern house, but who lives inside? So I'm thinking obviously it's small, so I think it's a single person. I'm gonna go with a single male. Of course you can have a single female, but I'm going with a single male. So bearing that in mind, if I have a bachelor, what sort of bed would he have? What sort of color scheme? I'm going with a very clean look, a bit of color, but generally nothing like, not like the Friends color. So this would fit maybe a lady or a young girl, but maybe not so much a sophisticated young yuppie male. So let's put this together. This will be the base of the bed. And let's build this now. I like to use these slope pieces for beds. I think that it gives a very nice look. It looks much more comfortable and inviting than, say, this, because this is much easier to build, but this gives a bit more design. And anytime you build something, not just in Lego, but any form of industrial design, because I design theatrical props for a living, you want to balance out all these straight and hard edges, because a lot of times when we use materials, whether it's wood, whether it's metal, plastics, to make things easy, we cut in straight lines. It's more economical, it's faster to build, it's easier to join and put together. But the result is you get a very blocky, squarish, sharp feel. That's why I try to change things by adding some angles. But another trick is to add in curves. So for Lego, when you add in these curved tiles or curved bricks, it helps break up all these sharp edges and just makes things look better, more interesting. So let's tile this up, and for the pillow, I'm not just going to use a towel, I'm going to use this curved towel piece with a plate to fill in the space. And again, just to add curvature to the overall build and make it look more inviting. And that's the bed that will fit in. I also need a side table, which I'm just going to use a modified brick, a 1x2 with a 1x2 jumper plate as the drawer, and a towel piece here, because I do want a lamp. Now I'll just build a simple lamp with this trans yellow cone, with this cone piece of a white towel and a jumper plate. That goes onto here, and that works pretty well as a side table which will fit in. And that's good that I didn't put the TV too low, as I guessed. It's touching the TV a bit, but I think it'll be fine. No one's gonna die. I think it's good. So let's now tile everything, because now I know where things go. The bed goes here, so I need to tile everything from here all the way here, giving space for the dresser as well. So let's do that now. I'm going to go with a two-tone color as well, but I don't want you to use white or gray, light gray that is, because I already used that for the bathroom. So I'm going to use these dark tan and light tan tile combinations. It's a bit muted in color, but I think it fits this dark green, so will work. So let me get the tiles out and we can start placing them into the floor. One thing I did was also to add a plate underneath the dresser, and again that's to raise it up by one stud or one plate because of the tiles we're going to put in right now. Now I've completed most of the tiling. The bit technically covers this stud here, so I don't really have to do this checkered tiling. I'm going to cheat and I'm just going to use this over here because you can't really see it once I place the bed in place, but I have to move it up by one because of the railing. So that goes like that. That allows me to put the railing in. I can put in the dresser, the bed. Well, I'm going to ignore that part because we really can't see it. But if you like, of course, if you're a perfectionist and you want to finish this area as well, you can do so. So the bed fits in. Let's get the angle right. Always tricky with these small builds. And our large human fingers don't help as well. That's why we really need minifigs to help us. That goes in there. I can put the TV back. That works out pretty well. One thing I did notice as I was tiling, if you have a look here, my 1x2 trans blue column is directly onto the plate, and that doesn't look really nice. In fact, what I should do is I should switch this white plate here to go under it, and so that the trans blue column goes directly underneath this tile. So let's do that quick fix right now. It's easy enough because that just comes here. I pop this off, put it the other way, put back the tile, and you gotta admit that looks much better now. So there we have, that is the top floor where we have a nice bedroom and a bathroom as well. They're both defined by the tiles. We've got privacy, we've got some storage area of that dresser. I guess what we could do if we want, I'm not going to do it, but you could add a clock or a painting here with another modified brick. Alright, so we're done with the top floor. Let's have a look at the bottom floor. The interior for this ground floor is a bit more tricky in my opinion, and the reason is because there are three access points. There's the main door that you cannot block, there's this access ladder to the second floor, and there's a side door. Now I can make my life easier by getting rid of a side door, so I'll think about it in just a bit. But the reason why I say it's more challenging is, now the space looks the same, well, it is the same as the top floor, but because of these access points, you can't put the same amount of furniture or in the same placement, because you need to have access so that minifigs can actually go through the doors or the ladder. So if you put the same kind of objects in a same relative position, you might actually block the access, and that doesn't make sense. So once again, when I start any kind of build, I have small builds that I think I'm going to detail the inside. So we have a little stove, an oven, some cabinets, a sink, and I've also got a chair or sofa. So these are items that subscribers and viewers also suggested, and it does make sense. So I'm going to, again, as usual, place the first or the largest object first. So if I have a chair, a sofa, or armchair like this, it can't be too big, so I know this is a good size to work with. The issue I find is I can't place it here, obviously, right? You can't put it anywhere along this row because you'll be blocking the access of the main door. So the only thing is if I place it somewhere here. So now the issue is, where am I going to put the sink, the kitchen basically, because to me it's also about priority. What's the most important? To me, the most important thing in this bottom floor is the kitchen. That's to me the most important. So we do need to ensure the kitchen is well placed. The problem with placing, you know, the sink and everything on this side of the build is you're going to be blocking the excess. So it seems like anything that we place here is going to block the excess. So that's going to be a problem. Now we can't fit everything here because there's not enough space. So I think the first thing I have to do is I need to change the position of the door. I'm going to switch it with this side over here. And the reason is this. I can't block the excess for the ladder. So I have to keep that space clear. So by default, there will be nothing in this position in front of the ladder. So it makes perfect sense to put the door, since I can't have anything in front of a door as well. If I have a ladder here and I have the door on this side, that means I'm now restricting myself from placing items on either side. But if I have to switch the door from here to here, I can technically fill this area up because I'm not blocking the excess. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to pop out this glass panel. I didn't mean to pop out the entire window, but yeah, now that that's done, it might be easier to just pop this out without breaking the glass. I've never ever broken glass, but maybe you can tell me, have you ever tried to pop a panel like this and the glass breaks? That's a bit stiff. On this side with the door. So we're going to place the glass panel into this panel here. That seems really tough to get in. And on this side, let's have the door swing out on the right. Yeah. So that goes there. Let's replace the bricks and the tiles. So now the door is here. Now I can fill up this area. So that makes more sense. But I think the armchair has to go. There isn't space for this, or maybe I'll have to figure out that out later. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this entire area with cabinets, the sink, and stuff like that, because that makes the most sense to me. So I'm going to work on that first. What I do need to do, because I'm going to tile this ground floor as well. So remember, I need to put a layer of tile underneath all these builds so it raises it up by one plate. So let's use a plate like that, which is exactly the width, and let's start building. So I'll put the sink, which I built. I just built a small sink. This uses corner panel pieces and a tap piece, and that's supposed to be soap. For the pipes, I use round studs like that. Next to that, let's put a cabinet. That can go next to it. I do need to fill up some space here. Let's do that. So now I've got a nice little kitchen setup, a stove, some countertops, storage cabinets. Over here I've got plates so we can add in a bit of detail. I always like to add in small details like cups and utensils to make it look a bit lived in. And that's my approach for buildings or houses in general. I do like to make it look lived in and not like an empty showroom. So that fits in that position. I'm not going to press it down just yet in case I have to move it about. But that's neat. Going with my principles of flow and feng shui. Again, we have this nice access all the way through. We get some space wall to wall and nothing is blocked there. So that's great. So let's see where we can place this sofa. So once again, here's the issue with the sofa, because it's quite big due to the footprint of the sofa. Anywhere I place it, it's going to either not make sense or it's just going to block the area. I could do this. I could build maybe a coffee table, but I don't like that look. I could build it maybe this way instead. So we have the sofa to the back. That would work maybe here, but then you see how it makes everything look much smaller. Let me just put this down. You see, you could technically do something like that, but it seems to be right in the middle, and we have kind of just blocked up. It looks ugly. So I'm not going, I'm going to take out this sofa altogether. And what I'm going to do is, I think, for the principles of flow, I want this entire stretch here just to be unobstructed. That will not make it look so cramped, and there'll be free access all the way through, which means that I have to use the space here only, which means that it's not much of a space. So basically I'm going to use almost a mirror of this. I'm going to do like an island counter, maybe all the way up to here. So if I do an island counter, which is quite common in small apartments especially, I have utility space, but I have a flow. So let's create something out of these pieces. And I'm going to create a counter. Yeah, just like that. So I've got a fridge, I've got more storage space, I've got a little island counter, and that can fit in right there. So that's maybe we can move this all the way here, and that might make more sense. So there's space on each side. There are 3 studs on either side of this island counter, and there's space for the minifig, and you get that flow. So that to me works much better. So I'm going to go with that. We do need some kind of a chair. So again, I have these builds, but that's not going to work. So I did think of a chair like that. That would fit, and if we can just slide it underneath the counter. And to fit my bachelor's pad, I'm going to use this particular build for a chair. So I'm going to have that slid underneath this counter. So it's basically where you can eat or work or basically utilize. So we're looking at something like that. So once again, I do need a base plate for these items. So we have a plate here that can fit here, and the chair can go underneath, and I can just press it together. So this is one unit, and this reclines, but that gives you the idea of a chair where you can pull in and out and you can eat. So that's basically it. That's basically the layout. I think that works. Now we have to figure out the tiling, but since I know the exact position for this, I'm going to tile the floor, and I've already thought about this. I'm going to go for a wood paneling feel, so I'm going to use brown tiles. But what I'm going to do is I want a doormat. I like a doormat because it's inviting. So I'm going to cover this 2x4 plate with some small tiles to create a doormat, and then I'll lay down the rest of the tiles. So let's do this. So this doormat will go right in front, and I think I can press that in right here, and that allows me to work around it when I put in the tiles. So I know I need to tile up this area here, 3 studs here, and I'm going to use the brown tiles. I want to make it ununiform, so I'm going to use long tiles, short tiles, just to fill up the space and try to make it asymmetrical so it looks like random wood paneling. That's looking decent, so I'm going to do the same for the other side. So it's 2 in and then 3 studs all the way here, and let's do that. So there we have the wood paneling done. I'm going to put my kitchen elements inside, so that hopefully fits, and press that in. And for the island counter, that fits in as well. We still have some untiled area there, so I'm going to cover those, and I can just use these 2x2 tiles. One here and one here. Notice I used a jumper plate here, and that's just so that I can stand a minifig and position a minifig. But here we go. A completely finished interior, looks good also from this side, doesn't look too cluttered, a lot of functional use. Again, you could put a TV here or some artwork. I'm not going to do that for this build, but that's easy enough. If you want to just break it off, put in those modified bricks, and using a snot technique, that's a stud snot on top, you'd press in some decorated tiles, or you could create a piece of artwork. But you know what? Come to think of it, just to make this more complete, why don't we add in a piece of artwork of something right here? Let's do that. So I grabbed a whole bunch of different tiles, different shapes, sizes, and also a 4x4 plate which will act as the canvas of this art piece. Now I have no idea what to create, so I'm going to do this on the spot. This will either make for very entertaining video content, or it will just be plain boring. So let's start off with, let's start off with one big tile. Let's make it colorful. So let's start with yellow. And I always like to break up shapes. So let's do a white and a black triangle tile. That's decent enough. So let's now fill up the space with small tile pieces. So I grabbed a bunch of colors. So let's just do it randomly like that. This is turning out decently. But check this out. That's like a melted tile. We can't use that. But let's fit in this kind of a brown. Let's do a blue. That's not too bad. Should we add in small ones, or should we put in one big one like that? I think it works either way. So let's just do that. What do you think? I think that kind of works. So this will be the art piece. That's easy enough. So now we need to fit it in. So we're going to build in this 1x2 modified brick. So the place to put it would probably be this high. So I need to place it in there. Easy enough. So that's a 4 plate. So I can put this. Well, I don't have to put it in the middle. I can just do that and use a 1x2 brick, and then we can fit back the tiles. So there we have it. That's built in, and I can place my artwork right there. Okay, that's a bit high, which means I screwed up. We need to put it one lower. Well, that's the joys of building Lego, and that's the joys of mocking. You just have to go with the flow and try not to screw up as much. But even with me, I built quite a few MOCs, and I'm always screwing up. But that's all part of the process. We just adapt and we try to improve over time. So I think we've got that almost. That won't fit. So again, remember, I always go back to the principles of fitting over the joints because you want stability. So this has to be a 1x4 piece, and the 1x3 goes here. I'm going to put back the tile pieces and the jumper plate. With that in place, we should be able to put this nicely. I'm going to move it to kind of center it a bit. Well, it's going to go either way. It can't be really centered just because this is a 5-stud space and this is a 4-stud space. So it's either going to hit this or the wall. I think it has to hit the wall like that. Or I could, of course, you could do this, but I'm not going to do it now. You could put a jumper plate here to center it, and we could just put it in the center. Or if I have a jumper plate, I will do it. I do have one here. So let's give it a shot and see how that looks. So it's kind of a cheat. I put this there to put a centered jumper, and that allows me to put that there. Of course, that means you would knock your head every time you wash dishes, so that won't be good. So I won't do that. What I could do, but I won't do, is you could change these to headlight bricks so it's in a bit more. But you know what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do that for now. In hindsight, I would probably make this smaller. I would use two 2x3 plates. so that it could be centered. But basically that's just to give you an idea of how I go about detailing a build. So after I detail everything, if I find that the wall is a bit empty, I try to add some artwork or some posters just to make things more interesting. Well, so let's put this together. That's the ground floor. The second floor fits on top, followed by the roof. And that's a pretty decent looking modern house. Now, I didn't make this any bigger because this was really just to demonstrate how to detail the house, or not just to detail, but how to build it from ground up and how to detail the inside. And as you can see, it's pretty pretty, even from the outside looking in. Lots of glass, so there's lots of light coming in. You can have a glimpse of what's inside. But we haven't finished the build yet. There's still all this unfinished area, the plate that this build sits on. We have to detail it before this MOC is considered finished. So we're going to do that right now, and I'm going to start off with some kind of a pathway to the main doors. And for that, I'm going to use some of these tile pieces. I want to have an entranceway or some kind of a pathway so it looks like it's made of stone, but I don't just want it to be made out of square parts. Again, I want to break up the squareness by using round tiles. So this looks aesthetically pleasing because there's visual dimension. It's really simple to put together, but makes such a difference. If I were to just put, square tiles, I won't get the same effect. Over here, I'm going to replicate that view for the side door as well. So there is still some kind of symmetry, even though there are different sizes, but you can see the similarity. And that already adds so much to this build. But what I'm going to do now is to add some greenery. So you always want to try to add plant parts to any build. It adds color, it's pretty, and more importantly to me, it again breaks up the squareness of the build because plant parts are irregular in shape, so you can make use of that to break up this whole straight edge monotony of the build. So I've got a tree which I'll use, but first I'm going to use a couple of plates, and that's to lay down a little garden. I won't really call it a garden, but at least some greenery. So for this corner here, it makes sense to put in a plate, and I've chosen, of course, to use a plate with a curve, again to break up the straight edges. And I'm going to fill up the space over here with green plates as well. And the whole idea is I'm creating a little, not even a garden, but just some kind of green flow that stretches around one corner of the build, and that looks pretty nice. It adds flow even to this outside, and of course adds texture to this otherwise plain plate. Over here I'm going to add some plant parts and greenery. I've got some of these studs which are basically green studs with colors on them to act as flowers. I've also got these blades, grass blade parts. And the whole idea is to have different heights and different looks. Now this is nature, so you don't really want to have it too uniform. You just want to create random patterns. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm just going to put this in kind of a random order because the bricks already are uniform and straight. So when it comes to natural parts like plants, you want to just make it random, almost haphazard, because there's no need to make it uniform, and after all, it is nature. Nature isn't that uniform. That's quite pretty. I've got some plant parts which are basically these grass stems with flowers, and I'm going to just add them, let's say here and probably here. That looks pretty good. I'll place the tree over here. That works as well. And let's just put something a bit industrial. I thought of having some kind of pipes, so just to put in a gauge or a meter, this is a pipe, or I'm going to put it this way. So this is basically a bar element with a cone, I've got a headlight brick here with a transparent stud, a round towel, and this gauge piece. So this gauge piece is going to face front. I'm going to place that on top, and we'll place this just at the back, as you would expect to find some kind of a gas meter or a water meter like that. Now, to finish off this build, it really looks quite pretty, but I don't like all this empty gray space. So what I'm going to do is to use these green studs. So these are flower parts but in green, and I'm just going to randomly place them all over the plate. So there you have it. What do you think of that? It's completely random. I didn't have any specific order I placed these, but now it's littered with all these green parts and really looks nice. And finally, we have completed this MOC from start all the way to finish. In the first video, we built up the entire structure, and in this second video, we spent time detailing both floors and the outside of this build. What do you think of the end result? So I'm pretty happy with this experience. I did obviously think of the rough idea in terms of the build, but in terms of the actual execution and putting everything together, I did it live on the spot with you guys in this video. Did you enjoy this process, and do you like the end result? Let me know in the comments. Personally, for a build of this size, I think the shape and design of the building is really nice, and the interior for the upstairs and downstairs work very well in terms of maximizing space as well as being aesthetically pleasing. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't, please subscribe to the channel and turn on that notification bell. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.